So just to introduce myself, first and foremost, my name's Andrew, and hold on, just making sure everyone's muted really quickly. And yeah, thank you all. If you hold DAOfi tokens, if you participated in the private sale, thanks for your early support. And we really appreciate it. Everyone here, the other investors and myself and the team really appreciate your support and active commitment and faith in this team. And it's been a really busy 2 months of us executing and building the product. It's been pretty much days, nights, weekends, all hours getting this product out. And just want to first address that, yes, there was a little bit of a delay with meeting this end of November deadline, in large part because the scope that we decided to go with for this first version was a little bit bigger than really. We were just a bit more ambitious with the scope. We did a permit pattern on XDAI so we can sponsor fees. And we went with the full robust bonding curve where exponential and linear parameters could be configured. That will be addressed in this call. But wanted to first and foremost express gratitude and thanks for everyone that supported. It is a very early stage project and product with a ton of execution unknowns. But luckily, with this call, you'll be able to meet the team, get a feel for our experience, get a feel for what we have so far, what we have left to build, and just provide transparency on how the product is going, which is a much needed thing in the space. So would like to just go around everyone, all the full-time and contractors, a mix of both, please just in order. Please introduce yourself in any order is fine.
Cool, I'll start out. James Young here, tech lead.
A bit about what you build and just like a minute.
Okay, sure. Really just helping set the direction when it comes to the tech. I've been working with different sidechain providers. We've chosen to collaborate initially with XDAI. So I've been working with POA team a bit and also came up with this, I guess, coining it the permit pattern. What my main focus is on in terms of like guidance and leading is really on the UI UX side. And this is what we're trying to do for DAOfi specifically. I think of what we're doing on the social token space as a bit different than what's happening in DeFi. So with DeFi, what we need in DeFi is, a DEX, stablecoin, some of these protocol tokens like Compound to earn yield and whatnot. I think on the social token side, what are going to be the building blocks for social tokens as we see this collision course between the creator economy, the passion economy, Web 2 and Web 3 is fundamental building blocks for UI UX. And so this is part of the reason why, in terms of choosing to bridge between mainnet on Ethereum and XDAI, is more of kind of a usability and scalability solution, and with the permit pattern allowing users not to have to switch between like mainnet and XDAI or have to hold DAI to hold XDAI and all of those technical nuances. When you talk about like the meme of the world computer on Ethereum, all this should be transparent. If I'm going to Netflix, I don't need to know how much server capacity I'm using up on AWS and how much fees I'm being charged there. And I think in a similar way, when it comes to especially social tokens, it's not going to be as technically minded as like focused on how can we accrue and convert social capital into a different asset class.
just want to make quick, like a brief bio on like what you've worked on, experience, years as like, just a bit of
Okay.
just like really,
Sure.
really quick. We'll just go down the
Okay.
list.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So prior to blockchain, was in gaming. Launched a game called Farmville on the east side in Ethereum. Co-wrote the white paper for AdChain, which introduced or formalized the notion of a token curated registry. Was tech lead at SpankChain, first L2 network on mainnet to launch. Help with writing the Moloch DAO contracts. Help launch Moloch, and then also Metacartel. And then what I've done that led me to DAOfi most directly was leading product at a bridge for Collabland for tokenized communities, and Andrew's community. Karma DAO was the first one to really like kick off, I believe, social tokens.
Cool. Nate, then Lex, then Adam, Josh.
Yeah, sounds good. Nathan, it's nice to see everybody. I have, I think 6 years now of experience in the blockchain area. I would call myself an applied cryptographer. I have most recently been working on this project, of course. I also do security audits with Least Authority, who is tied to the Zcash Foundation and Zcash team. So I have some experience with ZK snarks. Before that, I started my own little company to take contracts with other distributed computing systems or platforms. We worked with Filecoin and developed a GPU miner to do ZK snark proofs on GPUs to help accelerate the snark proving times, which were a bottleneck for a lot of organizations using those. Before that, we were doing Ethereum layer 2 scalability work. We were given some grants from the ETH Foundation to work on plasma type constructions and state channels and those sorts of layer 2 systems. Before that, I was working with the IPFS group doing interplanetary file system distributed computing. And before that, I was with StoreJ, which is another distributed file system. And that was in the time of 2017, the token architecture area. I did a lot of token sales and helped people build their smart contracts for token sales. And before that, I was just kind of hacking around as a web developer, getting a degree in abstract and applied mathematics, and trying to become a professional Counter-Strike player and delivering pizzas. Lex, I'll go and tag you.
Cheers. I'm Alex Lewis. Nice to meet everybody here. I'm a 17-year software engineer, also from the gaming space. I've been in blockchain for 3 years now. I joined with SpankChain in 2018 and did layer 2 development with James and also with Nathan a bit. And now I'm the core, I'm working on the core bonding curve contracts for DAOfi.
Cool. Adam and Josh.
Hey, I'm Adam. See here, I've been a software developer for 20 something years now, aging myself. Launch CTO of Inside.com, where I met and worked with Andrew a bunch. And since then, been doing a whole lot of software development, running a whole lot of like large software projects, mostly in the fintech space. And Josh and I do a whole lot of fintech backend development and that kind of stuff. We've been working on the front end components and the Web3 integration layers. So, yeah.
Cool.
Yeah,
Cool.
and I'll piggyback off that. I'm Josh. I met Andrew through Adam, and I too have a math degree and had an addiction to Counter-Strike. Anyway, outside of that, I've just been working on the Web3 and front end integration. So that's kind of my focus on this. Historically, I built a Bitcoin meta exchange back in the day between all of the fraud exchanges, your BTCEs and your Mt. Gox. and also I reverse engineered a Bitcoin ATM. And aside from that, I dabble. Anyway.
Yeah. I forgot to mention I'm one of the stewards at ETH Denver, and also work a whole bunch with Opolis in this space. So got a lot of Web3 experience there.
Cool, great. And about myself, I've been personally building apps and products and websites since a teenager. So that's been 10 plus years now. Adam and I worked together at Inside.com, where I worked as a product manager and a bit of a designer. And we worked together and shipped a ton of successful things together for years. And Josh and I worked together when Jason and Adam were going through Jason Calacanis' incubator in San Francisco. So we were working together alongside that incubator, because I was helping Jason operate that whole incubator. And then for context as well, James, Lex, and Nate, they all worked together at SpankChain and helped ship that whole product. And they have a successful past of delivering things. And other than that, I was a designer at Whisper for a while in Venice, and yeah, PM for Inside.com. Cool. So we're going to walk through the product and what we have so far. I'm going to share my screen, and I'm going to allow, this is just going to be a high level walkthrough, but I'm going to allow like the person that's part of the team that worked on it to chime in and add any notes. But this is the alpha product. We still have a few things to do. And again, it's like a huge lesson for us to learn that it was really hard to provide a tight deadline. And it was our fault for promising such a tight deadline. But we still have a few things left to do before this is actually usable on testnet. But we had a public November 30th deadline. So just want to walk through transparently what you see here. So the domain is app.daofi.org. Anyone can click and go to it now. You connect with MetaMask or Wallet Connect. And the first thing that's really different about this exchange is that it runs entirely on the XDAI sidechain. And if you've used Uniswap in the past, you not only pay huge gas fees, but like 4 out of 5 times you're getting failed transactions because the ETH mainnet is so slow, and the price that you're getting is all over the place. Your slippage can be all over the place. There's front running bots also affecting the price, your entry price. So just basically the fees and slowness of Ethereum are making Uniswap somewhat of a cumbersome experience. So what we've done is this whole DEX runs on XDAI entirely. And the reason why we chose XDAI as a protocol is because we evaluated other layer ones and we started work on them, and we got some prototypes done. But the user experience benefits of staying within MetaMask and having all your assets in MetaMask was significantly better than having to adopt another wallet elsewhere. So that was a huge selling point for us to stay within Ethereum. Then we looked at other exchanges, other layer 2 exchanges, and Honeyswap in particular, which is a Uniswap fork on XDAI. And the major user experience problem with Honeyswap is that you have to buy XDAI as gas to use that exchange, and you have to buy DAI. It's like a really crazy experience to even use it. DAOfi is unique, and James Young, Nate, feel free to touch on this, but what really sets us apart is the exchange is entirely free to use on layer 2. So the DAOfi, the exchange, sponsors all the XDAI fees. So users are literally swapping for free. It costs nothing to use this exchange.
Yeah, and I'll just add that we didn't sacrifice any decentralization as well to make this possible. We use a meta transaction type of system in order to make that possible. So the signatures are off-chain and still done by the user, but the security is still in the user's hands. We built a relay server to relay those transactions for the user, such that you never have to get any XDAI, and it'll all be able to happen without purchasing XDAI or dealing with XDAI at all. But even before that, we built a special type of wrapped Ether contract on the mainnet side to help get the users over to the XDAI side, because that was a bit of a point of friction in the user experience as well, where users would have to first purchase Ether and send 3 transactions on the Ethereum mainnet in order to wrap Ether and then bridge it over to the XDAI side. So we built a special contract where users can just simply get their Ether and send it to one contract in one transaction. And we use a relay server to help relay that over to the XDAI side as well. And yeah, maybe James wants to add anything to that.
No, that's a great summary and great point. And really, it's about UI UX, and we want to provide the same type of functionality. But when we see these social tokens and the users of these communities, we see them coming outside of like native crypto. And so the goal here is to optimize for UI UX. And as Nathan pointed out, instead of multiple transactions, we are using one. And so the sidechain using XDAI and having it be sponsored and free on the user's behalf, and not having to switch MetaMask, let alone get DAI or XDAI to get, to transact, are these optimizations and these like little friction points that we're looking to solve. And really, in order for these like social tokens to bloom, it's going to be like these small little optimizations that reduce friction, that's going to provide the best user experience.
And so the goal here was to make a user experience similar to that of using a centralized exchange. So all you have to do is literally just click transfer, and you can just move whatever assets you want into XDAI, and you can just literally just click this and just send your assets to XDAI, and it's there. And once you're in XDAI, again, all the fees are free. And there are some user experience improvements we made to the screen that behind the scenes, there's some rerouting and things to make this easier. But in reality, when you're on XDAI, all the tokens are wrapped and it's a different token contract. However, it's simplified in this user experience here where it just says USDC, USDT. But in reality, when you're on L2, which is XDAI, it's actually wrapped USDT, but we simplify it. And we also simplify the user experience of adding a token here. In case your token is not showing up for any reason, you can add the ERC20 contract and it automatically will populate in this table here with the token that you've just added. So that's a little bit about how we've built around scaling ETH and how we've solved user experience problems for scaling ETH. And cool. By the way, open discussion. If anyone from the team has anything to add, just chime in and interrupt at any time. And the next thing I want to walk through is creating a market. And creating a market is the same thing as creating a liquidity pool on Uniswap. The main difference when you're creating a market on DAOfi, though, however, is you can set your own parameterizable bonding curve for how the price appreciates. And again, this is like a very, very, very early stage concept and product that has extremely early product market fit signs. The reason why we've built this is because in August, when we saw all the Uniswap coins blow up, including Karma Coin and all these other tokens, like they all suffered majorly from unfair supply distribution. And what I mean by that is the 50-50 AMM curve for Uniswap looks something like this. It looks decent about halfway through your quote supply, and then suddenly when there are more buyers coming in after that, it goes exponential. And what happened in August and what happened with Karma tokens and every other token on Uniswap is once people started to realize this curve looked like this, there were bots and traders just buying up this early supply so they can dump it on people that were actually buying it for long-term value or the utility of the token or because they believed in the project. So it really made launching small tokens useless on Uniswap. So DAOfi lets you set that price curve however you want, but you can be flexible with the amount of liquidity you provide. Like in order to get a less steep curve on Uniswap, you have to provide a ton of liquidity. But with DAOfi, because there's math in determining the price, you can supply less liquidity and yet still have a flexible curve of your needs and liking.
And I can in there if you like. Yeah, if you don't mind. So yeah, the curve is defined by a bonding curve function. You know, the price y equals to this slope times the token supply raised to the nth power. And as Andrew was describing, that will change the token issuance schedule as more base tokens are issued and people are buying them. And inversely, you can sell them back to the contract and the price will move up and down this curve. We use calculus basically to determine the amounts in and out from the pool. And that math has to be specially optimized to run in Solidity in order to do exponentiation.
Yep. So if you think of the formula y equals mx to the nth power, that's basically the math that you see here. That's calculating the price curve, m being the slope and n being n, as in Nancy, being the exponent parameter. And DAOfi is a fork of Uniswap for this first version. And we've inserted math in Uniswap where the way it calculates price is changed and parameterized according to what people want here. So in the wild, we imagine the use cases for this to be the creation of membership tokens, DAO tokens, where people will estimate the economy for their community and they'll work it out. They'll play with this chart. They'll play with maybe Google spreadsheets to figure out how much they want one membership to cost based on supply. And once they come to DAOfi, they can input those parameters and they may want a very cheap community. They may want a very expensive exponential community fitting to their needs and value propositions of that community. They'll input it here and launch the market. And the way this exchange works when you launch the market is basically, if you think of the formula y equals mx to the n, basically the liquidity that you provide that you're starting out with is going to pick the starting point of that formula by inputting those values. So that's going to be the starting price based on how much liquidity you provide. And then the curve will go all the way up to basically how many of your base tokens that you provided. And that will be the max amount of supply that can be sold on that curve. So so those are the two main things. And this is what the swap page looks like. You can input, we've limited the swapping to only 3 tokens, ETH, USDC, and USDT. And you would just swap for whatever token you're trading for on DAOfi as you would on Uniswap. So yeah, those are the main things. And maybe if anyone on the team wants to share any insights, any learnings on their contribution so far. Or...
I'll chime in a little bit here. What we're building here is not just a set of smart contracts, but a set of infra as well that go along with it. And it's quite complex. There are contracts on mainnet that orchestrate with contracts on XDAI. We're using the AMB, the arbitrary message bridge on XDAI, and we're minting tokens on the XDAI side to represent the synthetic, from mainnet. And the way that Ethereum blockchain works is that it can't trigger itself. So this is why we need this outside infra to help keep the process moving along between chains. And so as Andrew was saying, this project is pretty ambitious and it goes beyond just kind of like the core smart contract development. But we think it's worth it. Again, it's just a focus on usability, UI, UX, which we hold as kind of like the guiding light for us for social tokens.
Yeah, I'd love to follow up on that. The UX is super important, making this thing accessible, understandable, and approachable by everyone, and not just having a special use tool for crypto nerds. Essentially, like this is like we paid a lot of attention to make sure that this thing was understandable and approachable, and had good information at every step, and held people's hands as much as reasonable throughout the whole process, and not just built a specialty tool, like built something that anyone who's interested can learn and use.
Yeah, I would add strategically in the lens of user acquisition and adoption, this definitely is a very hypothetical use case for sure. Our priority is to release a product that doesn't have so much user friction that we just cannot get any users adopted on the DEX. But at the same time, we don't want to bloat our scope and build a castle, build something so grand and never get to market. So the priority here is for next steps is to get this product audited, working. We'll follow up with instructions on how to use the testnet product so folks can play around with it. And our hypothesis here is that little project creators, social token creators, DAO tokens, specifically with the hypothesis focusing on Chinese community adoption being the main adoption point for this DEX. In case you didn't know, DAOs and token permission chat rooms don't exist on WeChat yet. And we have a partner that's built it, but we haven't released it yet because we're waiting for this DEX to be live and hoping that WeChat DAOs will be one of our main adoption points for this DEX. So again, main hypothesis is communities have about 20 to 30 communities ready to launch on DAOfi to release all sorts of tokens on various curves. And it is a very early stage project, and we really believe in being transparent as we build and having almost like a liquid startup valuation. Eventually, token utility will be baked into this product either through exchange fees and buybacks or staking to make a token market. That is not implemented yet on this product yet. We just need to get the core pieces and foundation up and running, but that's definitely a priority. And then in addition to that, the greater strategy for DAOfi is to we're launching a few other complementary products to this that play along the use cases of social finance, SoFi. For example, we're building a page that people can customize for their Web3 Ethereum wallet that will show off their NFTs. It will function like a trophy room for their NFTs. We're exploring right now how to build and this is in the early stages, but we're also exploring how to build a DEX that serves the use case of buying NFTs for a subscription or finite access to a digital service, similar to Patreon or OnlyFans, less kind of a sour example, but maybe Patreon's a more appropriate example. That's another complementary product that we're thinking about building. But the big picture here is that crypto assets with the intersection of social use cases and networks have a lot of interesting value accrual properties and value prop use cases, which we want to explore. So I guess we should touch base a bit on where we are with progress and what's left to get testnet usable for everyone.
Yeah, we are very close to that. So the only thing that's keeping us from really showing you right now how a swap would work end to end is just a small little front end glitch. We have a front end test ground that we built that does the entire end to end system. In order to do this, we've had to work closely with, as James mentioned, the arbitrary message bridge team, and they've been pushing out new features. They just released one the other day that will help complete the final piece of the loop, which would be bridging your tokens back to the mainnet. where they collect signatures from their relayers, and they need to use those signatures to broadcast the mainnet transaction. So we'll be broadcasting the mainnet transaction for the users of this application as well, to help, again, reduce the friction of that interface for the users. And yes, we've had to take the latest of the arbitrary message bridge team's publishments, which would be their tokens now have meta transactions built into them, which is allowing for all of the bridge tokens that come from the mainnet to be able to interact with our relay server. And that's all there, and this should all be able to be played with very soon.
Great, great. And if anyone has any questions as well, please ask anything at all. Welcome to ask, and we're happy to answer. For this version, DAOfi tokens are not required to make a market, like make a liquidity pool, but it's likely in an iteration that will require staking to make a market, or we'll have exchange fees, and those fees will use to buy back the DAOfi token as well. But for this version, DAOfi token is not required. Any questions, type in the chat, please. Cool. I mean, any other insights from the team on what we've built so far? Maybe Adam and Josh, like any insights working with Web3 front end and
Yeah. So my primary insight is the gap between the functioning, nicely iterated mock-up and getting all the actual Web3 bits wired in was about double what I thought it would be. But yeah, it's been very pleasant to work with the contracts. Honestly, just the fact that I can just do a permit and be done is very nice.
Yeah, and debugging gets particularly difficult whenever we're doing this pattern, because when you send, the user just signs one transaction, but after that, the blockchain then is going to make 5 to 10 transactions in order for that to all be possible. It needs to bounce around 3 or 4 contracts. And so whenever we send one off from the front end, we have to dig through the blockchain quite a bit to see where things revert if they do.
For a slightly different point of view, for me, debugging is not very hard. I say, hey, Nathan, look at this.
Yes, yeah, and blockchains aren't the friendliest thing to debug in the world, but it's not been terrible. We're almost there.
S-curves for this version, not possible. Right now, it's literally just either positive linear or exponential, and Lex can address this a bit further. However, if it becomes a user need that we need to do S-curves and more complicated curves, we can do that. And earlier we were building a prototype on Serum, which basically our Serum prototype, the way it worked, it's a market making bot that creates liquidity and buys and sells the price according to a bonding curve on Serum's on-chain order book. And that's how we achieved a bonding curve on Serum. And that would have allowed for a lot more flexible curves. But we put that whole project on hold in favor of staying on Ethereum, MetaMask, et cetera. But we may revisit that in the future. But no S-curves for now.
Yeah, it's something we could support eventually, like Andrew said.
Right.
I see some curve questions in there that Alex, you'd be good at answering, like adjusting the token curve after launch and setting up stops.
With this version, we're disallowing changes to the price curve. In future versions, there may be a way to do it by adjusting liquidity. I mean, in general, we're looking at adding more liquidity features for the liquidity provider experience. Multi-token hops is another thing we're looking at. Well, it is coming very soon, I should say. Yeah, let's see. Right now, each market has a pair owner, and the transfership, the only thing we're allowing is the transfership of the owner of the market. That owner would be the person or the address that has authority to modify curve parameters.
How do you prevent scammers from using the exchange? Yeah, well, first and foremost, we don't want people to get scammed by using our exchange first and foremost. And what I mean by that is like any potential exploits or security risks. And with DeFi, we think that security, I'm going to answer your question, but security is equally as important as product market fit and building a great product. Because if you really get exploited and drained for whatever reason, that's a huge loss to your momentum and trust. So security is a huge priority for us, and we're going to take the necessary steps for proper audits and to make sure that we're being responsible for allowing users to use this exchange and deposit funds. But yeah, scammers making scam projects and doing rug pulls and all that behavior, we'll do what we can as creators of the project to advise against that, whether it's changes in the product or warnings or anything we can do on social media to limit that, because we're against that kind of bad behavior. And but at the end of the day, it is a completely permissionless product that runs on smart contracts and protocols. So anyone can launch any token on this, really. There's no discrimination there. But really hope the traders in this industry and these anonymous rug pull creators kind of learn their lesson, at least the traders, like to stop really going heavy into projects that have anonymous founders. Someone asked the framework for the front end. It's React and TypeScript. And anything else, really? Anything else? Any other questions? Yeah. Anything else from the team that you guys want to add or comment on, or anything at all? No stops in the roadmap for now. We'll take a very data-driven approach as to what iterations and product needs are needed as we launch. So we're really open to adding anything that users tell us they need and adds value to them. So no stops in the near-term roadmap for now. So yeah, thanks, Nick. Thanks, Nick, for the compliment. Cool. Well, great. Well, thank you. And if you ever need to reach any of us, most of the team is busy building, but I'm available for the most part, available over Telegram. Everyone else is reachable as well. And really grateful for folks that want to test this out and try it. And we can't wait to provide instructions on how to use the testnet product in the near future. And we'll provide transparency as well on what that timeline looks like for getting to mainnet. But as mentioned, security in light of all these exploits that are happening in DeFi are of major priority for us. So hope this check-in was helpful, and the URL is live and we'll be pushing updates as we go. If anyone wants to check it out, app.daofi.org. And yeah, thank you all. Appreciate it.
Thanks.
Thanks a lot.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.